Hi there, eToro. It is Monday the 26th of June, and that means it's time to take a look at what moved the markets last week. I'm going to be making these videos shorter and snappier from here on out because I would like to spend more time creating videos about individual stocks because I find those a bit more fun. So let's get to it. Last week we didn't see a hell of a lot of macro data hitting the markets, but we did see some very interesting individual items. One of those being that CPI within the UK, so inflation data, came in higher than expected. It's not looking fantastic. You can see that the last two readings have been the same, whereas in many other geographies, the rate is dropping month on month. If we look at the individual items, we can also see that things like food and non-alcoholic beverages are still increasing year on year, 18.4%. This is horrific. This hits just about everyone in the country. We can see that investors are betting that the interest rate is going to rise even higher than the current levels, and I think it probably will a little bit, but I'm not sure it's going to get to 6.25%. So I guess we'll see. However, we did see, as a result of this very heavy reading of UK inflation, that the Bank of England surprised us with a larger than expected interest rate hike, hitting 5%. On to the US, we also got the initial jobless claims number, and we can see that the trend is upwards, although it's a lot more slowly than many expect. But let's see if that snowballs, because it takes some time for interest rate hikes to properly hit an economy. Also out of the US, and probably the biggest influence on the market last week, was the fact that Jerome Powell hinted at there being 2 more interest rate hikes in store for the US, although people are now debating whether that really will be the case. But it is looking as though it's almost certain that there will be 1.25% increase in July at least when it comes to further hikes this year. In addition to the market moving macro data that hit the market last week, we also had a very interesting political occurrence, which was the president of the US calling the president of China a dictator, the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, agreeing with what Joe Biden said. But just a few days earlier, Blinken had told the world that the US does not support Taiwanese independence. This was a huge head scratcher for me, by the way, that he supports the One China policy and that they don't want to challenge the status quo. So seemingly 2 contradictory statements by the top brass within the US government. I am not sure what to make of this, but we can definitely say that China and the US aren't on good terms. For those that have been following my portfolio action, you will have noticed that I've been increasing my holding of IEF, which is an ETF that holds a basket of 7 to 10 year duration treasury bonds. The reason for this is that we are probably close to peak interest rates for the US, and at some point that means that they will start coming down. I don't think that's going to happen now or in the near-term future, but somewhere within the next 1 to 2 years, I think that will start to happen. The US wants to encourage growth within their economy, and so they will start bringing those rates back down to do just that. When that happens, the yields on bonds will fall, the prices on bonds will rise, and holding a basket of these particular bonds should do very well when that happens. And finally, what about this week? Well, we're going to hear more from Jerome Powell, the US Fed Chair. There's going to be a smattering of other interesting pieces of data, for example, GDP data and CPI data. However, the thing that the market will be most fixed on is this event on Friday, where the US will tell the world what the core PCE price index has done over the past month. And the reason that the market is watching this is because this is the US Fed's preferred measure of inflation. All right, that's it for this week. I hope you have a good one. Thank you. Goodbye.